Hey guys, welcome back to Open Source Options. Today we're going to be taking a look at point clouds in QGIS. Now you need QGIS version 3.18 or higher, 3.18 or higher to do this. I'm using QGIS version 3.20. Now this means if you don't have a version greater than 3.18, just go to the QGIS website and download and install the latest version. Alright, so in the previous video, we downloaded LiDAR point cloud from the USGS. If you don't have point cloud data, go ahead and go watch that video to download it. I'm going to go ahead and load that point cloud in, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So we want to go to Layer and Data Source Manager, and you can see here we have point cloud. So go ahead and click that point cloud option, click the ... to load up a point cloud. I have mine, and I'll show you here. I have this lidar.laz file, and I have this right here, which is my LAZ point cloud. Now this is something that QGIS created. I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete that so we're all starting out from the same place here. So that's now deleted. And I'm going to bring in my LAZ file into QGIS. Now I'm going to click open, and I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to close. Now you'll notice this is going to take a little while. Point clouds have a ton of data, and this is going to take a few minutes to load into QGIS. So I'm going to pause the video while that happens and come back once my point cloud is loaded in. Alright, my point cloud is loaded in. You can see it has some default symbology here. Let's go ahead and open up our Symbology panel, which we can do. We're going to come down to panels and, layer styling panel. Let's go ahead and bring that one in. And you can see we have this layer here. We're in the 2D view here. And we can see what each of these represent. So you can see that we mostly have unclassified points here, which isn't a big deal. It just means that this product didn't classify whether those points were ground or low vegetation or whatever. Okay, so we can see this here. I'm going to zoom in on this real quick. And so if we zoom in, you can see we start to see these individual points, which are displayed as squares. Okay, simple enough. Let's zoom back out. Now let's take a look at this point cloud in 3D, since point clouds are 3D data. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to come up, we're going to go to View and a new 3D map view. And you can see here this pulls up this window, and I'm going to stretch this to make it big so you guys can see exactly what's going on here. I don't want to cover up my layer styling, so I'm going to come back and use that in just a sec here. So I'm going to make this cover a big chunk of the screen here. And now I'm going to zoom out. Okay, there we go. So you can see that point cloud, as I zoom out, appears. And so let's just rotate. You can use these buttons here to rotate, or you can use push by clicking and dragging with your mouse wheel, which is what I'm doing right now. You can rotate that thing. And so you'll see what we have here is we have an image down here, and we have the 3D image up here, and this makes it kind of hard to rotate. So let's go in and change the settings so this is easier to rotate. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to go to configure here in the settings, and I'm going to set a terrain elevation offset. Now this is at 0 right now, and the elevations on this LiDAR point cloud are going to be, oh man, I think the minimum elevation is around 2,000. So let's just start below that, start at 1,800, and let's apply that. Okay, and now, if I rotate again, gently, you can see that that layer is much closer. Let's go ahead and do one more thing here that'll make this a little easier to see. We're going to do a couple more things, 2 more things. So first, here's our 3D classification symbology styling. Let's go to 2D right here, where it says classification. Just change this to extent only. Now we just have this outlined rectangle. Now come back to 3D here. We're going to change this in just a minute. Now let's go configure our settings. and let's go to configure, and in advanced, you'll see this show iDome lighting. I'm going to cancel this. We want to turn that on. But you can also just do it right here, show iDome lighting. Now you can see that makes things a little easier with that shadow to see what's going on. Okay. So we can see that we're still, oh, here's our low end over here. So you can see that we're still just a little bit high. So let's come back into our settings again, go to configure, and I'm just going to go to terrain. I'm going to bump this to 1950 and apply and okay. Okay, and it looks like it's pretty darn close, so that's pretty good. Okay, now let's zoom on this point cloud. It looks like a lot of these unclassified points are trees. Yeah, it looks like they are. So now let's just go ahead and change the symbology so it looks a little more realistic. And if I double click on the color, it'll bring up my color changer. And I'm going to put this over on green. I'm going to pull it down to the dark green. In here somewhere, like that. And then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to knock my opacity down pretty low to there. Okay, and then we can head back over. All right, so we've got that a little more realistic looking. Okay, and so there you go. That's how you can visualize this 3D point cloud in QGIS. Now I want to show you some other things we can't necessarily do with this point cloud because it doesn't have the correct data. We can come over here and we can symbolize this. Oops. We can, let me just slide this over, pull this out so we have all of the information. There we go. And we can change this here to RGB. And then it will let us select the red, green, and blue bands. Now, this is XYZ. We don't have any RGB here. Some point clouds will have RGB. So we're just going to not worry about that. But let's come back here and let's do attribute by ramp. And so we can get like a, there you go. So you can see we have this. We're using the attribute X. Let's change this to intensity. So if we change that to intensity, you can see where we have higher versus lower intensity points. We can see those low intensity points in brown. Let's change this to a different color ramp to something like, sure, spectral sounds good. And so that starts to bring those out. So you can see that our low intensities versus our high intensities. We can change this to number of returns. This will be interesting. And so you can see that when it hits the top of the canopy, we get fewer returns. As we hit down lower in the canopy, we get different returns, which makes sense. And we can do return number. So it'll show we're probably going to get the first return for most of these. So we see the canopy top. If we zoomed in, we get the lower returns. Yep, so we get first return there. And we can try to zoom in on this point cloud to see where those lower returns are. You can see them popping through right there on the bottoms. Okay, and so that's how we can do some basic symbolization with our point cloud in QGIS. Let's just take a quick look at these. I don't see anything else that looks really interesting there. There's user data, whatever that might be. Yeah, and if you want to save an image here, really easy to do from 3D view, you can come up and just click on this image button right here, and then you can select it and save it as an image. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'm going to come back to 2D view. I'm going to turn on attribute by ramp, so we can show this also in 2D view. So here's intensity, and you can see where it's more intense versus less intense from those returns. We can come down here. And once again, I'll just show this just one more time. Let's do this with number of returns. And there you have it, right? So we can do that by attribute, by ramp. And then there's also the classification. And we can change this to, once again, intensity. We can say classify, or we can say delete all. We can now say classify. We have to add values first. Classify. Anyway, it didn't turn out quite as good as I was hoping. But you get the idea of how we can do this. So let's go back to, I can't find it. There it is, classification. And classify. Okay, so there you go. Let's just go back one more time. We'll just go put this off on return number. Oh, and we want to do this as an attribute by ramp. And we want to do this as return number. And there you can see that we get the 1s and we get some of those 3s down in there as well. All right, guys, so that's basic symbology and 3D view with color ramps in QG, or with point clouds in QGIS. I hope you found this interesting. Like I said, if you want to know how to download point cloud data for the United States, go check it out on the previous video. Thanks for watching.